Welcome one and all to the fourth episode of Off the Cuff podcast. Joined here by my lovely friend Hylander. Welcome once again. Hylander, how's it going today, man?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Oh, it's going great. My name is JT, and yeah, we're here. We're ready to start episode 4 of Off the Cuff. But before we do that, Highlander, it's time for the question of the day, my friend.
Oh, I forgot about the question of the day.
For the question of the day.
Okay, I'm prepared for this time.
So now I want you to take a look at the screen.
Okay, we playing.
I'm giving you a pick
Jeopardy?
this time. I'm giving you a pick this time. It's only one question, so pick correctly.
Can I name that sport for 400, please?
Name that sport 400. Here we go. The Need for Speed. This is the fastest sport in the world, as competitors race each other in machines that would be illegal to drive on the streets of our own towns.
Oh, no. What is street racing?
Street racing. Okay.
I feel like it's not Formula. I feel like it's
not
Formula
Motor racing.
I know it's like the supercar stuff, isn't it?
Motor racing. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because it's not NASCAR or Formula One. It's the
No, not NASCAR, not Formula One.
It's the supercars.
Yep.
Nope. I'm not gonna lie, I couldn't think of the name of that. That's why I just went, street racing. I would just.
Yep. No, it is not that. It is good old motor racing. Once again, welcome in. For those of you who are listening to us on your podcast app, feel free to come over here to twitch.tv/offthecuffpod, where we go live with this show every Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to check us out on our audio sites. Make sure to come here when we're live. We're all over the place. Anchor.fm/offthecuffcast to see all of our audio sites. And yeah, so we got a great show lined up for y'all today. And I mean, without further ado, let's hop into the NFL segment.
Fantastic. Well, not gonna lie, it's kind of a quiet week for the NFL, to be honest. There's been a couple big things. We got the Texans, who signed ex-Cowboys tight end Dalton Schultz and ex-Bills running back Devin Singletary. Texans also signed left tackle Laramie Tunsil to a 3-year, $75 million extension. Looks like the Texans are trying to build themselves up a bit of a team, finally. Mm-hmm. They also have the second overall pick. Obviously, they're probably going to take a quarterback there. Looking like they might have something going. I still think there's quite a few things they need to build first. But they're taking steps in the right path. Speaking of the Texans, as we know, the Texans just traded their wide receiver Brandon Cooks to the Cowboys. Brandon Cooks, in an interview, said that he couldn't be more hungry after the trade. So I'm expecting him to have a good season with the Dallas Cowboys this year.
Mm-hmm.
Fun little pun of the day. We're having a Cam back. Cam Newton announces he'll throw at Auburn on Tuesday, trying to make a comeback into the league.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, after that Super Bowl that he was in with the Panthers that time, when the Panthers were a super team, and then absolutely choked it in the Super Bowl, Cam Newton has never been the same since that, to be honest.
No.
Will he be a starter in the NFL again? I don't think so. But good for him on the comeback try. We have the Browns bringing back ex-Titans quarterback Josh Dobbs on a 1-year deal. Obviously, we know that Josh Dobbs is not going to be the starter for the Cleveland Browns as they have Deshaun Watson.
No.
I mean, they went all in for him. Highly doubt we'll see Josh Dobbs on the field unless Watson gets another case of bad massaging. We have the Bills signed ex-Patriots running back Damian Harris. A little interesting to see that the Bills went for a little, in-division rival player. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I'm hoping Damian Harris works out for them, even though I still like Cook better. I gotta say, hope they stick with Cook over Harris. We got Raiders signed former Texans tight end OJ Howard, also ex Buck. We'll see how he comes in and steps in for the fact that they lost their tight end. Well, not lost, but they traded him to Darren Waller to the Giants.
Right.
So we'll see if OJ Howard can come in there and help Jimmy Garoppolo and that Raiders team. Again, I think the Raiders are a team that I don't think they make the playoffs this year either. Sad to say for Raiders fans, but
yeah,
I just don't see it. Panthers signed former Vikings wide receiver Adam Thielen to a 3-year, $25 million deal. The Panthers are starting to become my favorite for the NFC South very quickly. I mean, you got the fact that they picked up Miles Sanders from the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
They now picked up Adam Thielen. They have the first overall pick. This team, in my opinion, is slowly getting there. Especially when you look at the quarterbacks and the teams in the NFC South. That is a definite situation where I feel like the NFC South gets the team that gets out of the NFC South and goes into the playoffs might only have 6 or 7 wins next season. I think that division is still going to struggle a bit. But I mean, again, we'll have to wait till, further later this year to find out how that actually happens and what goes on there. There's still a lot of good free agents available currently. For example, we have wide receiver Odell Beckham, linebacker Bobby Wagner, wide receiver DJ Shark, cornerback Rock Yassin, cornerback Marcus Peters, edge Frank Clark, and of course there's a few more. But the fact that there's some veteran guys out there that are still not on teams is kind of shocking to me. Especially, I mean, 3 that really hit me immediately is Bobby Wagner, Marcus Peters, and Frank Clark.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're all Super Bowl winners. Why would you not try to get a veteran player like that on your team immediately?
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing to me. And then, of course, DJ Shark, 26-year-old wide receiver. I mean, why not add a young kid receiver to your team? Odell Beckham, I mean, I can understand the worry there.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of drama there.
Right. I mean, Chark has proven his worth too, I think,
Yeah. When it comes to like him playing for the Jaguars for a bit, and then I forget where was he last year?
I think he was still with the Jaguars.
Was he? I think he was. I thought he was on.
Or was he on like the Panthers? Maybe.
I actually think he was on.
Oh, he was with the Lions.
The Lions. That's what it was. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he didn't do too bad on the Lions. I gotta say, he was doing pretty. That's why, like, you can bring not. I don't think he's the guy to be a number 1 wide receiver yet, but you can definitely bring him in to be like a second or third, string wide receiver who comes in, makes those little small plays, helps out your team a little bit, and just move on with it. So from the signings and stuff that's happened so far this season, what team do you expect to surprise the most so far?
You're putting me on the hot seat. I was going to put you in the hot seat.
Oh, well, let's see. Uno reverse card.
Well, let's see. Any team to put say it again. Say your question one more time.
All right. Out of the signings and stuff that we've had in the free agency so far,
sure.
What team do you think is going to be the biggest surprise going into next season?
Surprise? I'm gonna say the Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears. Okay. I like that Justin Fields DJ Moore combo. I think they could come out, especially if their defense is okay. They're not amazing, just okay. If they can contend, if they can shut people out sometimes, if they can give a fight on that defensive end, I think that their offense, with Justin Fields' level of like understanding and getting more mature in the league, this is what his third fourth,
third, I believe.
right? One of those two, either third or fourth. So, I
I
mean,
think it's third.
yeah, he's getting some camaraderie with the guys who've been there with him. So, I'm looking for a big turnaround. I mean, he didn't have a terrible season last year. I mean, I had him on my fantasy team for a while, and he did okay for me. But you know, he does well. But I think he needs to direct more and command more, and be that guy. So I'm looking for that from him this year, and to make a big statement, kind of how Jalen Hurts kind of did this year. Not to the same level of Jalen Hurts. I don't think Justin Fields is there, but I want him to be a vocal leader. I want him to be confident in his abilities, and I think that with that said and done, if that is done, the Bears could shock some people this season.
I mean, for the first time ever, I mean, knowing a lot of Bears fans, one thing that a lot of Bears fans have always complained about is the Bears just don't like to spend money
Right.
for their team.
Mhm.
This year, they're actually going out there and they're actually spending money for once
Yeah, they are.
and doing stuff. And I mean, from what I heard, they're not done yet. I heard they're still in talks to try to get Eckler.
Mhm.
They're in talks for DeAndre Hopkins even.
Yep.
And I'm like, if they can somehow pull both of them, I think the Bears are honestly a favorite in the North.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And so I pulled out Justin Fields because I've got this little graphic that I wanted to show you.
Ooh,
and I wanted to get
okay.
your take on your favorite quarterback wide receiver duo of this
Ooh.
offseason. You got Derek Carr, Michael Thomas. You got Daniel Jones, Darren Waller, Justin Fields, DJ Moore, Jimmy Garoppolo, Devontae Adams, Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley. Which one of those 5 duos are you liking the most?
You know, I was gonna say Derek Carr, Michael Thomas right off the rip,
Mhm.
but then I remember how many games Michael Thomas likes to miss.
Yep.
So because of that, that duo is out.
Okay.
Daniel Jones, Darren Waller. I feel like those two will have a decent season.
Yeah.
But again, I don't see Daniel Jones just throwing it to a tight end all the time.
No.
So because of that, that duo is out. Justin Fields, DJ Moore is going to be good, but I think that's going to take longer than one season to really fully build that,
Yeah.
connection.
Mhm.
Because of that, I scratched that one out.
2 left.
I'm going to go with Jimmy Garoppolo and Devontae Adams.
Okay.
Just because they're 2 veteran players. Obviously Jimmy Garoppolo trained under Brady for so long.
Yep.
And we've seen what Jimmy Garoppolo can do when he's in the right mindset. The last time Devontae Adams had a quarterback that was actually really good,
Mhm.
I mean, look, that team was a dominant Green Bay team.
They were.
I think Jimmy Garoppolo and Devontae Adams connect really fast.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I also do feel that Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley will also have a really good season.
Okay. Speak on that a little bit, because you've spoken on all the other ones so far. Speak on Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley for a second. Because Calvin Ridley, I mean, he's solid, but I mean, he's been on a very lackluster Falcons team for a while. And so, do you think he's picked up bad habits that need to be ironed out?
He definitely could. It's one of those things where I feel like under Doug Peterson, which is why as an Eagle fan I love Doug Peterson.
Mhm.
The players show up and they work.
Right.
I mean, look, Trevor Lawrence finally looked like how he was supposed to look last season. Why? Because he actually had a coach that cared.
Yep.
The fact that they brought in Ridley to help him out is fantastic.
Mhm.
I mean, I would like to see Jaguars go a little bit more crazy and try to get more for him, like more like receivers, not DJ Moore. But I like it, honestly. I like the pairing. I still think Jacksonville's still the favorite of the South. I just thought of something. Speaking of the South of the AFC,
Mhm.
there was that whole thing that they were shopping Derrick Henry, but that went very quiet, very fast.
Yeah.
I just noticed. Speaking of the South,
Yeah.
and it's like, I guess that's not happening.
Right.
But my question though is on that is how is Derrick Henry going to respond to that, knowing that the Titans kind of didn't want him
Right.
if they're willing to shop him?
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to go into the season with that in his mind and play a terrible season?
Mm-hmm.
Or is he going to go in the season with this extra little, oh, now I got a little chip on my shoulder? And if that's the case, then the Titans will win the AFC South this season.
Right.
The Colts, I don't see the Colts doing anything. I mean, as of right now, I think Gardner Minshew is probably going to be their starting quarterback there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why he wouldn't be. Then you have the Texans, who are most likely going to have Bryce Young probably as their quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Bryce Young, maybe CJ Stroud. I don't see the Texans being a team that's going to go out there and immediately win the division. Not when the Jaguars are getting better.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense is insane. I mean, honestly, the game I'm looking forward to in the Jacksonville Jaguars this year is Josh Allen sacking Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's happening again this season.
Well, I hope not. It probably will happen, but
It'll probably be a 9-6 game again.
yeah, I really hope not again. If it is, then I hope it's for the other team's benefit, the Buffalo Bills' benefit.
I don't understand why when those two teams meet each other, they can't score touchdowns.
No, they can't. It's pathetic, actually.
But yeah, that's basically it for the NFL news. If there's any questions?
One more.
Hold on, we got a question.
So you spoke very not frequently, very not much about the Cam Newton situation, and so I've got a little something here.
Okay, I like a little something.
Yeah, of course. And so Cam Newton, these are his options, the team options. There's a whole bunch of, we're not really worrying about this stuff up here.
Let me full screen this real quick.
Remaining options, okay, before free agency began. He's got Arizona still, Tennessee, and honestly, it's about it. Washington, Carolina, Atlanta, maybe. But yeah, so Cam Newton's whole thing is that there aren't 32 people who are better than him. And he might have a point. Is he better than, Mike White? Is he better than Nick Foles? Is he better than Deshaun Watson? Is he better than those guys in your opinion, Highlander, or not really?
It's really hard to really say because, again, we haven't seen him play a competitive NFL game as a starter.
Yep.
In what, 2 years now?
Yep, since 2020.
So when you think about that, and you think about all the guys you just said have played since then.
True.
And are still on active teams.
Mm-hmm.
Even. Mike White, I mean, he came in and did some amazing things for the Jets last year.
He did.
So, I mean, with that, yes.
Okay.
I will say Mike White's better than Cam Newton.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I think Cam Newton is just an older version of Lamar Jackson at this point. And I mean, it's a hot take. I know there's a lot of people who love Cam Newton, but I definitely feel like his time has come and passed. And
yeah. I mean, some people are still very high on Lamar Jackson too, so there might be a little.
Oh yeah.
That some people might think that you just gave Cam Newton a compliment.
No. When I say older Lamar Jackson, I mean
right. It's not good.
Lamar Jackson at that point would be his tires they're a little raw. He needs you're on treads at this point.
Yeah.
Which I mean, if all Lamar Jackson does is run and doesn't get better at throwing, he will be in Cam Newton's shoes in a couple years.
Right. And I mean, Cam came out with a hype video, pretty much, of him throwing to somebody. And I mean, to me, when I was watching it, I was just like, am I supposed to be impressed by this? You're throwing in a completely open field to one receiver who's doing a route against no defense, no pads, no nothing. It's practice. I could do that. I could splice together
So basically, like us going to a field and throwing a ball together.
Literally, we could get some sick shots of us throwing and catching. Like honestly, you throwing a football, me catching. I feel like we could do the same thing that Cam Newton did. I mean, we won't be as fast or as athletic as them, but we could easily make a hype video just like that and be like,
Yeah.
I belong in the NFL. No, you don't. So,
I mean, I've seen like 100 of those on YouTube where somebody makes a video being like, "Look, I should be in the NFL over half these quarterbacks." You're
right.
like, but how many times did you fail? Because you definitely edited this to make yourself look really good. But again, there's no defense.
Right.
When there's no defensive players and you're just tossing the ball, you could look like the greatest quarterback of all time.
100%. I mean, some
When you
people
put up
say that he
someone-
should go to the XFL, and like if he's really serious to go to the XFL, ball out there because
Yes.
you think he would, with a player of his caliber, a player that he once was. If he still is even half of that, he would still ball out in the XFL and make a claim for himself on an actual game that matters.
I mean, to go to that point,
And get paid for it too.
One of the best players to like actually go off of is Ben DiNucci.
Ben DiNucci.
He was the backup for the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
He got cut by the Cowboys. He's now playing in the XFL, and this man he's going off.
Yeah,
and like doing great things for Seattle.
Mm.
And it's one of those things again. 26 years old, making a name from Atlanta, Georgia.
Look at that,
making a name for himself by going to the XFL.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's a thing of like, at this point, I don't know if it's a bad thing that players are going there. Because again, they said they wanted to try to make it like a minor league kind of to the NFL.
I think it's doing that so far, yeah.
And I mean, the way he's looking, we can see Ben DiNucci coming back at some point into the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, it's shocking to think about. I mean,
I don't even know who he is.
I just know him from watching Hard Knocks the 1 year of him like trying to make the team and just having a really bad preseason, and then bam, now he's here in the XFL.
I gotcha.
I mean, it's either that or he turns into the next Johnny Manziel, where he just plays in the Canadian Football League, and that's about it.
Well, yeah, you can't win them all.
So JT, let's get into what you've been wanting to talk about the last couple days.
The NFL, or not the NFL, the NBA. We just got done with the NFL, the NBA. I'm so mad that I'm getting the sport wrong. Okay, yeah. So NBA news. Catching up with the whole Ja Morant situation one more time. This time I'm not going to be talking about Ja Morant as much in this segment for the NBA stuff, because honestly, the storm has passed for Ja Morant, and I just wish him the best. I hope that he comes back healthy and strong, and that he can help the Grizzlies make a run for the playoffs. I wish nothing but the best for him, with his counseling, with everything he's going through. However, so the NBA suspended him 8 games, right? So that was until yesterday. So Monday was the end of his 8-game ban. He could have played yesterday, Monday, 3/20, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the Grizzlies said, "No, we're gonna wait. We're gonna hold him off for this game." And so here's something from Memphis coach.
Day game, because that's going to be his first day back with the team. Whether we have shoot around or not, to be determined. Try to get a practice in there, play group as well, and just kind of talk to the medical team to see where he's at. Obviously, we don't have so many games left. The balance of getting prepared for an NBA game, is that the best preparation rather than just play groups too. So it's an ongoing dialogue. We'll see when he gets back in the team environment on Monday, but our anticipation is at least out for Monday, and then we'll cross the bridge on Wednesday as we get a little bit closer.
So he's out yesterday. That was determined. And then they say, we'll see where he's at. We'll get with the medical team, and then we'll see if he's ready to go on Wednesday. He's ready. He's ready to go. He wants to come back. There's not a question in my mind that he's ready, physically ready to go to play. However, my problem with the NBA and with the Memphis Grizzlies organization with bringing him back in is that it seems a little disingenuous. And over the past 2 weeks, I've been talking about them covering their butts with the situation, covering their butts. And now that the storm has passed and the storm has rolled over, all of a sudden, we're gonna sit him out one more game, but then we'll see how he's doing. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, PR talk, and then we'll see if he's ready to. He's ready to come back in, okay? And so ladies and gentlemen, this is the first off the cuff segment of this show where we literally go off the cuff. In my case, I'm just mad because it is just greed. In my opinion. So like this is a huge deal, right? No one's arguing the fact that this was a huge deal. Turns out the gun wasn't his, like we said. Like we guessed, the gun was not his, which is a whole another thing. It doesn't really matter. Just depends on who he's hanging out with. But from the NBA, suspending him 8 games, like without pay, I mean, 8 out of 82, that's not going to do much. And especially when he has like, a $3 million contract over 4 years, that's not really going to do anything. I mean, it's going to be kind of hurtful, but also not that bad. So for the NBA, I was certain that Ja was going to sit out until the end of the season. I thought he would come back during the playoffs. I thought he would be good for them in the playoffs. I did not imagine that the NBA would want him back early, or the Grizzlies would want him back early because they were talking about him getting better, him getting the help that he needs with that counselor in Florida. And I mean, apparently that counselor is the best counselor in the entire world. Everyone should line up to be seeing her or him. They fixed him in a week. That's amazing. Like everyone should go to that person and get their counseling from them. They fixed Ja Morant in a week and he's back now. And obviously that's probably not what's happening. There's, telecounseling and whatever the case. But anyway, like if you're the Grizzlies, if you're the NBA, I honestly understand why you want him back. No one's going to be watching the Grizzlies as much without Ja Morant. Tickets aren't going to sell as much for the Grizzlies without Ja Morant. I understand all of those logistical things about the business, but this is also talking about the face of your organization, a future, if not now, face of the NBA. Like, this is a big deal. You made it a big deal back the past 2 weeks, and now all of a sudden you're just like, oh yeah, he's back. Just like that?
The worst part about it is it's not the first time we've seen kind of like a big name athlete get away with something.
Right. Honestly, yeah, this literally feels like a slap on the hand. And which, I mean, honestly, his first offense, like, sure, yeah, give him a slap on the hand. But like, make him not play until the playoffs. I mean, we're not that far anyway. It's not that big of a stretch. And the Grizzlies aren't even doing that bad without him. But I mean, obviously they want to, they want to continue the way they are. They want to stay relevant. They want to stay that number 2 spot in the West. So yeah, you're going to bring him back. But like, I don't know. I just think this looks like weak on the organization's part. Not so much the NBA part. I mean, the NBA is just being a business, I guess. But through all of what you were talking about the past 2 weeks with the situation from the Grizzlies organization, like, it seems like you got over it very, very fast. And it just seems greedy in my opinion. And so that's my problem with the Ja Morant situation. Once again, wish Ja Morant all the best in coming back and being healthy mind, healthy body, new attitude on the game and on just life in general. I think that'd be great for him. So he can just focus on basketball. That's all he needs to do. Focus on basketball, play the game you play. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about your street cred. Just don't. It's not worth it.
The worst part about it is because he's coming back so fast, this is going to be a headline in another year or two.
Yeah.
Where he's going to do something stupid again, and it's going to be this whole big thing.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
We've seen it so many times before with like different sports.
Yeah. But, taking a look at the standings here, like I just said, Memphis is in second, right behind Denver. This is all looking very similar. Just Dallas is here. They moved up one spot, I'm pretty sure, from last week. T-Wolves are going down a little bit. But this whole race is super, super close. Like, I'm pretty sure I just checked this yesterday, and the Lakers were in 10th instead of 11th. So that spot for those play-in games are up for grabs. I mean, the Pelicans could even make it in there if they really wanted to. The Blazers could even make it in there if they really wanted to. I don't see that happening, but like, it's super, super tight here. And there's that. Actually, there was a bit of news that I did want to talk about. Michael Jordan is selling his majority stock in the Hornets.
No.
He is selling his majority stock. And he is giving it to Gabe Plotkin and Richard Schnall. They are a part of an organization. Wait, hold on. Huge Chief Investment Officer of Melvin Capital. GameStop. Yeah, they were at the center of GameStop. So big business people. Apparently Jordan's still going to have like a minor stake in it, but not really much, just kind of enough to stay in with the NBA executives and stuff like that, keep his foot in the door, keep getting those gift baskets sent to his house. Yeah, so I mean, this is kind of huge for the organization as a whole, because I mean, you have the legend Michael Jordan pulling out of your team. Like, okay, sorry, we're not good enough for you, Mike. I mean, maybe he doesn't want to deal with it. I mean, I wouldn't, but at the same time, you bought into this major stock back in the day, like, and I don't even know how many years it's been. It hasn't been that many, I don't think. I don't even think it's been a full decade. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like I heard this news definitely not a decade ago. It's been less than that, I feel like.
I'm having one of those dumb moments, but I swore he own like part of the Wizards at one point?
The Wizards.
I don't know why, but I swear I remember the Wizards being a thing with him.
The Wizards.
And like, that's why I'm seeing Charlotte, and I'm like, wait a minute, when did he do that?
I'm not sure. The Wizards. What do you got here? Oh, he returned to the Wizards.
Is that it? Yeah, apparently he played for the Wizards. Okay, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, so I mean, I thought that was kind of interesting and very unexpected, I think. I'm pretty sure, there was a Michael Jordan shaped bomb that was dropped into the sea. So yeah, this was a surprise. No one really saw this coming. And so, it's hard. It's hard. The greatest of all time, pulling out of your organization doesn't send a very good look to your organization, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I got my rant out of the way. Looking at these standings, I mean, nothing has really changed. Brooklyn's back atop of this play-in. I feel like they weren't. Oh no, they were. I think New York Knicks and them are trading spots here.
I think the only thing that's really changed is that two teams have now clinched a spot in the playoffs.
Yes, that's true. Bucks and Celtics are both clinched. Down here, Denver clinched the division. Their division, they clinched their division.
Okay.
Which is weird because I don't see an X by their name. I'm pretty sure that means they're also in the playoffs, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe their division is just that bad to where they just clinched it. Yeah, because it doesn't say clinched playoff berth. It just says clinched their division. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure they're going to clinch their playoff berth. That's not really anything I'm worried about when it comes to the Nuggets.
Usually when you clinch a division, you clinch a playoff spot.
Right. That's what I thought. Maybe that was there last week and we just never talked about it. But yeah, Spurs and Rockets, they're out. I think we already said that last week. I don't think the Hornets, I don't think we're out yet last week, but now they're out. So maybe that had to do with Jordan
Yeah.
pulling out. He's like, all right, see ya. You guys aren't in there again. I'm out. Nothing I can do about this. When really you could have done something. But, I mean, he's Michael Jordan. Who doesn't want to play for a franchise semi-owned by Michael Jordan? I would.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I would want to. But yeah, so, end of the season is coming. It's approaching. And yeah, that's just how the NBA is looking right now. So all right, well, that is the end of the NBA segment that we've got going on here. Highlander, take us through the NHL. What's going on new? Any new fashion shows going on?
There's no new fashion shows, thankfully.
Oh,
but there's a couple things.
Oh,
as JT said about like basketball, we're ramping up hockey end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
The good thing is, once the playoffs start, I'm gonna get really in depth of like, games and goal scorers. I really get into it more. Where if I did that to every single game that's going on right now, we'd be here for a good 3 hours, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why that's waiting. But yes, let's see. The Panthers are slowly clawing their way back into the playoff mix, which is an exciting situation going on there, towards the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Ottawa Senators, who handed the Penguins their 4th straight loss. Again, that's another playoff hunt situation that's getting a little exciting. The LA Kings gain in Pacific as they extend their point streak to 10 points straight. The LA Kings are now tied for first in the West Conference right now at 92. It's coming down to a wire who's winning the West. I gotta say, the West is it's getting good.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at like just the top 6 here, and it's anyone's in the West.
Yeah, it's looking real tight.
I mean, you come down here to the bottom part. Calgary's trying to make a late run. Nashville's still trying to make a late run. I mean, Nashville has the best chance. They've played the least amount of games. Yeah, Anaheim's still down here having a great time. San Jose, they flopped somehow. I don't know what happened there. I'm pretty sure at one point in the season, San Jose was like in this area.
Really?
And they just crumbled down.
Wow.
Don't know what happened.
That's embarrassing.
But Boston they're still going. I mean, they've gotten a couple losses recently.
Well,
as you can see,
detail. They're resting their players probably.
Yeah, Carolina's trying to gain on them a bit. Same with the Devils. But it's funny, like the top 3 kind of has like separation, and then once you get to 4th and down, it's kind of a little competition there between 4th through 6th.
A little tight there, yeah.
And then right here is where things get interesting. Like I said, the Panthers are clawing their way back. They're in as of right now.
They are in.
With Pittsburgh losing 4 straight, they're now sitting out going, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I mean, now think about it. There's only, Florida only has 12 games to play left. So that's how close we are to some of the playoffs starting.
Right.
I mean, that's only 11 games left. So we're down to the nitty-gritty of the season for hockey, which is an exciting one. As you can see, there's some good scores going on here so far. If you're watching live with us,
yes.
Boston is currently beating Ottawa 2-1.
Ooh, they're on a power play too. I love that.
Yeah, they just went into a power play.
Love to see that.
Nashville is giving it to Buffalo.
That
again.
They are.
I'm pretty sure Nashville is. Yeah, Nashville's trying to make it.
Buffalo's also. Oh no, they're kind of high up, aren't they? Oh, no,
Buffalo. Buffalo's they've crumbled down.
They're not looking that great.
Yeah, they were looking good at one point.
I was gonna say, just a couple weeks ago, weren't they up there in 8th?
They were like competing. Yeah.
Yeah. Now they're down.
They've really crumbled immediately.
That's Buffalo for you.
That's just hockey.
They'll crumble in the key moments. That's what Buffalo does.
I was going to point out, the Florida Panthers, I said, are in the hunt right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're losing 2-1 to Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is 14th in the West or in the East. Again, anything's possible in the NHL. Oh, actually, that's a good game too, right there. The Carolina Rangers game. It's 5 versus 2.
Oh
in the
yeah,
East.
that's huge. That'd be huge for Boston if
Rangers.
if Carolina could get stopped.
Yeah, Rangers are currently up 1-0. Love that. But yeah, that's basically all the really hockey news. Like I said, once playoffs come, I might, you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I'm gonna say it live right now. Once the playoffs start or about to start, I'll do a little bracket thing. Do my own little we can get JT to do his little bracket as well for the playoffs.
Yep.
You can see who we have speculated to win.
I mean, we've already said our finals matchups, haven't we?
Yeah, but once the brackets are like fully made,
True.
You can go through it more and be like, all right, well, this is gonna happen here. This I think is gonna happen here.
Right.
And you'll be surprised that like your guess that you had at the start, you go, yeah, no, I don't see that team. Like, for instance, Dallas could end up going against Colorado.
Yeah, Dallas has dropped down to third now. They were second.
If Dallas goes up against Colorado, I think Colorado could take that, especially last year's Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah. Weren't Colorado down too?
Colorado's making a rise.
That 6-win streak. Yeah.
They're making a rise at the right time. And it's the time of the year that you want to see those win streaks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, Edmonton, 4-game win streak. The Oilers were down like near the 8th spot as well at one point.
Right.
Seattle. Seattle was in 4th.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was last week they were in 4th. That just shows you how fast things can change in the world of hockey.
Yeah. Well, you're not wrong.
That's why next week, this whole standings could be completely different. I mean, next week, Ottawa could be in the 8th spot, which would be shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Even Washington. I was going to point out, Boston's home record is absolutely insane.
Yeah. They're
27-3-3.
They're nuts.
Yeah, I don't want to play Boston at their home stadium in the playoffs. Like you're basically losing those 2 games no matter what.
Right.
Start in the first 4. And then every time it goes to Boston, which means Boston also has game 7 because of the number 1 seed. So any game that goes to game 7, you're playing in Boston. So, I mean, again, Boston's still my favorite in the honestly.
Me too.
JT, what's happening in the world of baseball?
World of baseball. Well, as we speak, the World Baseball Championship is going on. World Baseball Classic Championship is going on right now. USA versus Japan. And it is, oh man.
It's going.
It's a banger. I don't have the live score. Hold on.
Oh, I do.
World Baseball Class. What's going on here?
It's 2-1 Japan right now.
2-1 Japan. Okay.
It was 1-0 USA, and then Japan bounced back.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, 2-1 Japan. Love that. Love seeing that. And well, I don't actually like seeing that. I guess I want USA to win, but I do have USA winning 10-8. That's my final score. 10-8 final score. It's going to be a high-scoring game. They're only in the third right now, so
possibility.
Long game ahead. But yeah, talking about the World Baseball Classic, Japan last night actually pulled off a crazy walk-off double to secure their spot in the finals today. And so, we got a little highlight of that on the screen for you here. Yeah. Munetaka Murakami wins it for Team Japan last night as he brings in Shohei and a pinch runner who I don't know the name of, but yeah, big man. He was called the who was he referenced to? He hits a lot of homers. So I'm not sure if he was referred to like as the Big Papi of Japan or Somebody
gonna
else. Somebody else. But he hits a lot of homers. So that one was almost out of there, as you saw. But yeah, so huge win for Japan. Obviously, they're in the championship game now. Huge loss for Mexico, which they did very
leading the
well.
whole time.
Yeah, they did very, very well in these World Baseball Classics, better than people thought they were going to do. So yeah, kind of heartbreaking for them to go out like that. Kind of just rather lose in a normal fashion than a walk-off fashion to, lose in the semifinals.
In the bottom of the ninth as well.
Literally, bottom of the ninth, 0 outs too. Didn't even give a fight. Just like, yep, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. But
knowing that you're just 3 outs away from going to the championship, and then you allow that to happen.
Exactly. So yeah, taking a look at the bracket that was incomplete last week when we looked at this. USA Venezuela came out of C and D. Venezuela won Pool D. Arguably should have beat us in quarterfinal match, but USA had a crazy go-ahead grand slam from Trey Turner, I believe his name is. Yep. And then we won that game off of his grand slam, which was absolutely nuts. And then we move on to face Cuba, and Cuba beat Australia. I don't think that match happened last week either. Then we beat them 14-2. Just completely steamrolled them. And yeah, made our way into the championship. So kind of worried me that we beat them so handedly, not given much of a fight. It's kind of that thing of if you win too badly, then you go into the finals match getting all cocky and overconfident, and then you get swept or you get blown out. Versus Japan having to have that walk-off win. Tensions are high. Huge celebration after that going in. Real nice. But yeah, on the other side of the bracket, Japan beat Italy 9-3. Up there, Mexico beat Puerto Rico 5-4. Very close game there. And then, obviously, Japan beat Mexico here 6-5, that we just saw. And yeah, so now, championship game, middle of the third, bottom of the third now, probably. Yeah, bottom of the third. Japan's up to bat again. Are they up to bat, or is it America?
Yeah.
From this,
no.
It should be Japan up to bat if this is correct, which is weird because it's in America. It's in Miami, so I'm surprised we weren't like the home team. I mean, we are the home team, so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, so 10-8. That's what I've got. I've got 10-8. And 10-8, yeah. And, MLB news, not really much going on. Spring training, everyone's really dedicated to this. There was a rumor that I heard at the beginning of last week after the podcast that Shohei wasn't going to play for Japan in the semifinals and later because he was worried about, coming back to the Angels and working on his pitching. But he's playing tonight, and he played yesterday. So he must have said, no, let's not do that. Let's play for my nation, because that would look really bad if I missed that, especially if we went to like the finals, the championship, which they're in now. So I'm glad that he stuck it out, especially because it's in Miami. I mean, most teams are down in Florida anyway for spring training, so you're really not missing much at all. So I'm glad he's there. I'm glad that there's no... If the USA was to win, I'm glad there's no like, oh, well, we didn't have Shohei. And, so I'm glad that both teams are at their full strength. And the reason why I think the USA is going to win, most people I think are favoring Japan. I think the USA just has more offense, honestly. Japan has better pitching, I believe, because, you look at a lot of great pitchers in the MLB, and a lot of them do come from Japan. So I think Japan might have the edge in pitching against us, but if we can jump on them, which right now we're not, only 1 run, but if we can jump on them, really stick it to the pitchers, I think that our offense is just going to overwhelm them, and they're not going to have much answer for us on their offensive side of the bat, So that's why I said 10-8. I still think they're a very solid team that's going to put eight runs on us, probably, in my opinion. But yeah, so 10-8 is my opinion. I think we're just going to out-offense them, and that's...
the defense played pretty good right here on this bottom of the third.
Yeah.
They struck out.
It's already the bottom of the
Shohei.
third. Yeah, wow.
They struck out Shohei, and then they walked Yoshida,
Mm-hmm.
and then directly after that, Munetaka Murakami grounded into a double play.
The guy who walked it off last night grounds into a double
Yeah.
play in the third. Okay, I love that. Not biased at all. Yeah. So, I mean, that's really that's it for the baseball. I'm not even really going to cover the spring training just because I don't see a point, honestly. Call me unprofessional. Call me back when we're actually in real games. So, which is just over a week away. So
That's crazy.
get ready for some actual MLB.
Everything's coming.
It's coming. It's
You got
coming.
playoffs coming in basketball and hockey. You got the start of the season for MLB. We're getting into it.
Yep. Yeah. So opening day of the MLB. Trying to see who's playing. Who is playing opening day? First game of the season. Who's it going to be? It's going to be Atlanta Braves at Washington Nationals and San Francisco Giants at New York Yankees. So the Yankees are getting a spot there.
Ooh.
With Orioles, Red Sox, Brewers, Cubs, and then Tigers, Rays. Oh, there's a lot of games. There's a lot of games on opening day. Go figure.
I'm not surprised. Yeah,
I thought there was just going to be a couple. I forgot this isn't the NFL or the NRL where only a couple of the games happen a day. No, pretty much the entire day goes.
Yeah.
Got 180 something games to play, or it's less now. I don't remember what it is now, but. Yeah, so that's really the end of the MLB segment of the show. Actually, that just reminded me, because I looked and we're already in the fourth inning of the game, hour and a half into the game, and I'm thinking, man, they're going pretty quick. Over the course of last week, I did some math, and I found everything. Problem with me and my brain is that I don't remember where I sent the information to myself on the length of games that has been happening for the past week. But I do remember roughly what I came up with. So I was telling you all last week about how I wish that there was a easier way to find the length of the games for the World Baseball Classic, and I found it. It was in the box score where I thought it was going to be, but I just wasn't looking in the right spot. So that's an L on me. But I did the math. I crunched all the numbers. Funnily enough, I mean, there's a lot of blowouts that happened over the course of this World Baseball Classic. So an average of, I want to say, at least 12 runs was scored every single game in this World Baseball Classic up to up to like last week, pretty much. So right before the actual bracket play started, average of like 12 runs per game, normally blowout fashion. So like one team would have like 18, and then the other team would have like 4. So yeah, there was that, and the average time of a World Baseball Classic game, if I do recall correctly, was 3 hours and 9 minutes long. But I saw games that went as long as 4 hours, 4.5 hours even. And then there was some games that went like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, not 2 hours, 2.5 was like the earliest. But those games were even cut short because of mercy rules. So they didn't even play the full game in 2.5 hours. So, from what that shows me is that the pitch clock has been speeding up the game. Because on average, they say that the game at most is like 2.5 hours. And obviously, you're going to have those games where, like the Red Sox destroyed the Phillies that one time, 15-3, and that was a 3-hour game. That's going to happen when you score a lot of runs, when the defense can't get off the field. So we're going to have our 3-hour game. But for the most part, it's not going to be an average of 3 hours and 9 minutes like the World Baseball Classic was. So the rules are doing things, and I'm excited for the MLB season because it'll speed up those players again who might have gotten used to the World Baseball Classic feel of the game again. Settle back into some bad habits maybe, and they're gonna step up to that batter's box and be like, "Oh, you got 8 seconds and you get a strike on you." Well, all right, sorry, that's my fault. World Baseball Classic talking. Yeah, so that is what I found on the time of the games for this World Baseball Classic. Without further ado, Highlander, take us into week 3. 3? Yes. Of the NRL.
Yeah, round
3. It was week 3.
Yeah.
It was round 3
round 3
of the NFL or NRL. I keep wanting to say NFL for some reason today.
Yeah, I don't know why, but you're locked into the NFL.
I am locked into something that's not really happening.
The season is still far away, but you're locked in now to the NFL.
I'm locked in.
Apparently, you want it, and you want it now.
I don't know why.
You know what it is? As a Bills fan, it makes sense. You were kind of like left with like a tease last season. Like there was glimpses of greatness, and then it all fell apart like Rome.
We're used to it.
Yeah, well,
that's how it is. No, I meant to wear my Bills jersey today. That's what might be what it is. I'm not wearing the jersey, so I'm just like, man, something's missing. NFL, it's on the mind. It's on the mind.
There you go. Well, with the NRL, I think this is where we bring in our third correspondent.
Yes,
here, Mr. Regal.
Regal, how's it going, bud?
Hello. It's going great, boys. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Fantastic. Oh, rocking the Brisbane.
Brisbane jersey this time around.
I see the jerseys changed.
Well, I mean, listen, after Melbourne's disappointing loss last week, I find it really hard to even look at that jersey, let alone wear it. But I figured I'd change it up from last week. I've got 2 NRL jerseys. I wore one last week. I figured I'd wear the other one this week. Don't read into it too much, boys.
Yeah, well, it already has been read. Don't worry.
Yep, okay, it's been read.
All right. Well, we're gonna hop right in here to the round 3 scores. And we'll get your opinion on these scores as I go through them, Regal.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So we're gonna start off with the Sea Eagles versus the Eels, ending in 34-30 for the Sea Eagles. What was your take on that game?
I thought, obviously any high-scoring game is usually an interesting game. A lot of people had Parramatta to win this game. I didn't. I did expect Manly to come up with a victory. It was a bit closer than I thought it was going to be. But just because Manly home game, I think it was nearly sold out as well. Turbo back, he's looking in top form, and that team is just dangerous. Have they lost yet this season in an actual game that they played? They had last week.
Nope.
No, so they've got top points. Yeah. And then who did they verse this week? They're versing the Bunnies. Okay. So they might get their first loss this week. But that game in particular, high scoring, entertaining. I don't know. It's good to see them after how they had such a rough end of the season last year. It's good to see them kind of coming back into form and finding their place, hopefully in the top 8.
I didn't like it.
That's
fair.
Here's the better question for you, Regal. What's your take on the Eels with a slow 0-3 start?
It's unexpected. I think with Melbourne winning in week 1 against them, that was the only game where everybody could go, okay, Melbourne, they haven't lost a round 1 game in 20 years. It was pretty unlikely for them to lose one now, even though Parramatta is Melbourne's weak knees, or, like the team that always beats them. You can see Melbourne go up against a team like Penrith and you go kind of 50-50. Every time they go up against Parramatta, they lose. So for them to win in round 1 was massive for Melbourne's confidence. It's all plummeted down the hole now. But for Parramatta to lose to Manly, that's not too bad of a loss, right? I think we can all kind of agree that that's realistically not too bad with how they're performing this year. To lose to the Sharks, admittedly only by 4 points in round 2, but without Nico Hines, they had every reason to win that game at home and failed to do so. I think they're very disappointing at the moment, but I still think they're a side that once they find those few wins to catch up, once they find that form, they will be back to a top 8 team. Top 4, it's going to take a lot of work. They got a lot of rounds to do it. So it's entirely possible, but they should still end up being a top 8 team this year. This week they're going up against Penrith.
Edmonton's 0-4.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, though, it depends on what Penrith we get. I mean,
the one thing to remember is that it is a Parramatta home game, which admittedly, when it's Sydney teams, it doesn't really matter because all the stadiums are so close that exactly. But that's a game I can see Parramatta winning, and in fact, in my sports bet tips that I've got for this week, I actually tipped Parramatta to win this game. I think they're going to be too hungry. And Penrith,
they better
coming
be.
off a bye, right? I'm
Yes.
hoping they're going to be a bit slow. Yeah, coming off a bye.
Mhm.
I hope they're going to be a bit slow. You know, I'm kind of enjoying seeing Penrith not be as much of a dominant team this year. It's not to say they won't be by the end of the season, but they're at least having a slower start, which I think most fans will agree that's refreshing to see them not be the team where you can just go, yep, they're going to win the minor premiership. Round 2, you can see they're going to be the best team in the league. It's good to see them starting to find some cracks. And I think if Parramatta don't have as many errors as they did last week, especially, like that game was riddled with knock-ons, ruck infringements, 6 agains. I think Parramatta can come up with that win and get their first win of the season. It's going to be a very tough game. But looking at so far this season, all of their games have been lost by less than a try, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, every single game has been lost by less than a try. So it is entirely possible. Like they could be 3-0 right now instead. Like, you know, just a couple of less errors, they could be 3-0 instead of 0-3.
100%.
So it's not like they're not in form. They're just riddled with errors, and they need to clean that up. So I think they can knock off Penrith, but it's gonna be a tough game.
All right, going into the second matchup, Knights versus Dolphins. The Dolphins take down the Knights 36-20.
Yeah,
that Dolphins team they're doing some crazy things.
they really are, and I think you got to give it up to the experience they got in that forward pack. They've got Jesse Bromwich, Felice Kafusi, who now has a 3-match ban or something from that game.
He does.
Huge loss for them. But between the Bromwich brothers, Kafusi, they've got Tom Gilbert up the middle, someone at more experience like Ray Stone. That forward pack, it isn't necessarily extremely dominant, but they just have the experience and the leadership to be able to push that team. And that was a Knights home game. They rolled them by 16 points. It is impressive what that team is able to do. I still think it's a bit too early in the season to talk about too much. Like, they're versing Brisbane this week, and I think that's a huge test for them. I think Brisbane are going to knock them off and sort of set them back into their own, like being a new team in a league. But based on their performance, it could be game of the week, in my opinion. Depending on how well the Dolphins play, I think you don't really need to worry about how Brisbane are going to play. It's at Suncorp Stadium.
Yeah, they're pretty solid.
It's basically the Dolphins are supposed to be the home team, but it's in Suncorp, so
exactly.
Brisbane's technically
a
the home team
for
then.
both teams. Yeah, exactly. So
because the Dolphins don't technically have a home site, right? Is that
well, they
true?
do.
Oh, they do have one.
Do.
Yeah, they've got KO Stadium, which is up in Redcliffe. Which they're not the Redcliffe Dolphins, but they're based in Redcliffe.
It's very confusing.
Very confusing.
It's a whole thing. I don't really understand it, to be honest. But
almost as confusing as adding one team and having an odd number of teams.
Almost
as confusing as that.
That's fair. Which there's been talks to make it and to add in another team, but that'll probably still be over a year away. I don't see that happening next year, but
definitely not.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a home game for both teams. I think Brisbane will get that win, but it's going to be a competitive match. I hope, at the very least. So we'll see how that one goes. But yeah, 36-20. I expected the Dolphins to get that win, but probably not that dominantly. That was embarrassing to watch for the Knights.
For sure.
Yeah, at home as well. Insane.
All right, and then going into the third game of the week, we had the Roosters versus the Bunnies.
Now,
the big old rivalry game.
I think you'll agree with me, Highlander, in this game had its controversies.
This game was a cluster of I don't know what happened.
Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is that it's at Allianz Stadium, which is the home game for the for the Roosters. Sorry, but again, it's in Sydney. Both of them are Sydney teams. It's not really a home game for anybody. The amount of high tackles that happened in this game was insane. There was 2 sin bins, I think, in the game as well. And every single time the Roosters and the Bunnies go up against each other. For context, in the NFL, the Bunnies and the Rabbitohs are like the Cowboys and the Eagles.
Yeah,
it is that level of absolute disdain and hatred for each other. Yeah, there were 2 sin bins in the game. Joey Manu's got a 1-match ban for a high tackle on.
Cheekums was kind of weird.
Yeah, Cheekham's sin bin was, I felt like a pity sin bin, if anything.
Yeah, because I mean,
like send one to the bin, send the other.
They said they sent him in the bin for coming in late, when all he was doing was he came in late, and like he grabbed his teammate and then pushed the guy off, and then they're like, "Yeah, no, you're getting bin too."
Mm-hmm. Which seems, I understand, intentionally coming in, escalating an issue that was already potentially dangerous. Like, we had a game that I think might have been the Brisbane game. There was a game this week. Somebody threw a punch, which in the NRL is a huge no-no.
Yeah, that's
so for somebody to come in and escalate what's already an escalated issue, I understand from a referee point of view going, look, we can't be having that. This game needs to be clean. But for a sin bin, I don't know. To me, it felt like a pity sin bin, which
they just wanted to make it even. That's
exactly
that's what they were doing.
It sounds like the refs more wanted to not have it on their neck, where it was like, oh, they lost because they had one in the bin, and it's like that's not realistic. So yeah, look, every time those 2 teams get into it, it's always a good match, and I don't shy away from that. I still think this was a good match to watch, but riddled with
errors and a lot of controversy.
A lot of controversy as well. And I think, yeah, look, 2-point loss. That's rough for the Bunnies, but they can bounce back. The Roosters really not in form at the moment.
No,
they often start off really slow. So for them, I think that was their first win of the season, and then they're on the bye this week. So
yeah,
look,
yeah, it was the first one.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, there's really not much to talk about in that game other than it was a good game that had controversies. Hey, we just got to move on. Go next.
Exactly.
That's all there is to it.
Now the next game, I'm sure, is one that you're gonna love to talk about, as the Gold Coast Titans beat the Melbourne Storm 38-34.
This, I watched this game with our friend Jabin, and I don't remember if you were there for that game as well, Highlander. But
I don't know if I was.
I was furious throughout this entire game. It was such a high score game, 38 points to 34. That's a ridiculous score margin. And like you look at Melbourne, they scored. Actually, it was only 2 tries in the last 15 minutes, and then there was also a Titans try in amongst that. Not as bad as what happened later in the week, but we got absolutely rolled by 2 things. Number one was ourselves, the amount of knock-ons. Last week, the errors throughout the week, I've never seen anything like it. Every single game, so many teams, so many knock-ons, so many offsides, 6 agains. It was hard to watch because of how many errors. Like these are professional teams, professional players that keep creating these same errors, and it's not like it's raining. Like it wasn't raining, I think, in any of the games. Why are we knocking the ball on? That was my problem with Melbourne. The amount of knock-ons we had in that game was, I wouldn't just, the only word to use is unprofessional. The other thing that killed us was our right-hand defense. We've got Will Warbrick, and I think it's Remus Smith on that side. And you can see, if you go back and look at the scores, Camperera scored 2 tries on that same edge in 20 minutes. That Camperera is a rookie, I was about to say rookie wide receiver, rookie winger. And for him to be able to absolutely embarrass the right-hand side defense of a team that everybody can see making the playoffs, potentially winning the whole thing, it goes to show just how off that team was throughout the game, and specifically how poor that right-hand defense was. So that's something they really need to work on.
Especially because you guys also got a couple people back this week as well.
We did, yeah. We had Tarek Sims have his debut. We had Jonah Pezzett have his debut filling in for Cameron Munster, who's back this week. And both of them scored a try in their debut, which was pretty impressive. So I'm hoping that keeps up. We're still not full strength, obviously. We won't be until we have Pappenhausen back. Yeah. We're also out Jerome Hughes for 2 weeks now because he was unsuccessful in his judiciary appeal. The one thing I do want to point out is that I went back and looked at last year's stats for the Gold Coast Titans in the first 5 rounds. Every single game in the first 5 rounds was decided by less than a try.
Oh.
They lost 1 game by 6 points, 1 game by 4 points, and 3 games by 2 points.
Wow.
So it seems to me the Titans, even though it's only 1 year, the Titans seem to have this uncanny ability to have a decent start to the season and then fall off. Which, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of hoping is going to be the case this year as well. So I'm not going to go ahead and say that, Voodoo beat Melbourne. We beat ourselves. That's the reality of the situation. Melbourne beat themselves. So that's, as the Rabbitohs game, I feel like that's a game that you just need to go, look, it happened, go next.
Exactly.
It's not something other than looking to reduce the errors, which Craig Bellamy, I mean, he will be livid with the performance last week. I think he will absolutely rip into them. Again, Cameron Munster back, even though we're out Jerome Hughes, I think that's a huge boost for our side in terms of leadership. Not necessarily skill, but, people know my opinion on Cameron Munster. But leadership at the very least, to be able to make more production for that forward pack, get Harry Grant into the game, get Cameron Munster into the game, get those playmakers into the game. Start using your wingers. Please. Please start using your wingers. Warbrick, 4 weeks into the season, has not scored a try. Coates scored 1 try last week. For wingers, didn't even score a try last week. No, he did, 75th minute, at the end of the game. For a starting side as strong as Melbourne, to have 1 winger score, of the 2 of them, score 1 try in the first 3 weeks is pathetic.
Yeah.
They aren't using their edges. They're trying to run the ball up the middle, and teams are seeing that, and they're just exploiting it. They can shut Harry Grant down by tackling him at marker, and there's nothing they can do about it because they're just not using they're not using the centers. They've got Olam, who's basically a forward in and of himself. He returned last week. They didn't use him. They didn't use him, and things like that. The knock-ons, we beat ourselves. That's a reality of that situation. I hope we can come back and have a better performance next week, but it's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Going into the next game, now this one is another game that was, I think a lot of people would say, was a shocker, and it was the Cowboys falling 26-12 to the Warriors.
This is my upset of the week, and I think you could agree with me on that, Highlander.
Yeah,
home game for the Cowboys. The Cowboys are a very impressive team. They were out Scott Drinkwater due to suspension, and he's a good playmaker for that team. he is not the heart and soul of that team. For him
No.
to be down, for that team to be down one player and get rolled by the Warriors, there's nothing to say about that. Yeah, there's nothing to say about that other than pathetic. They need to clean that up. They need to clean their game up. The Warriors are still a bottom 4 team, in my opinion. Despite, I know they've won a bunch of games this season. I don't think it's going to last. I think they're going to drop off. They're going to drop off pretty heavily. And yeah, there's nothing more to say about that other than the Cowboys were pathetic.
Yeah, that was a score that I don't think anyone had that going that way. Unless you were a Warriors fan that really believed in your team. No one really had the Cowboys dropping that game at home to the Warriors.
Yeah, like Queensland Country Bank Stadium, the North Queensland is the only team north of Redcliffe that have a team in the NRL. So basically, everybody north of, I want to say, Bundaberg, that's an NRL fan is a Cowboys fan. That they have such a massive fan base and a really huge stadium too. That I don't think it was anywhere near sold out. They had 17,000 people, which for a Cowboys home game is actually quite pathetic as well. And look, maybe that was in the Cowboys' heads, like, we're not selling out our stadium. But admittedly, it's a team that just isn't that impressive to watch. Nobody really wants to watch the Warriors outside of Warriors fans, I guess. I think most people that are NRL fans of other teams can honestly say they're a team that 90% of the time are not. They don't produce enough to be an entertaining side. It's harder to say that this year because obviously they're putting up some points. But yeah, there is nothing else to say about that game other than it was pathetic by the Cowboys. They need to sort that out.
I mean, for me, last season, the only reason why I liked watching the Warriors was because of Reece Walsh. Now that he's not there, it's kind of, I don't know. It's a lot of their games are just very slow and boring now. Except for, again, that game. That game was a game that I don't think we'll see happen again. That's like one of the ones of the season kind of like surprises.
Yeah, like you'll look at last week, they lost to the Roosters. They scored 12 points. Everybody expected them to lose, and they didn't put up a big score. That's a classic Warriors game. And then round 1, they beat the Knights 20-12, which that's not really much to go to brag home about, is it? Like the Knights are clearly looking at how they've performed so far this year. They're a pathetic side.
I think I have the Knights winning the spoon.
That's I feel like that's a fair argument. A lot of people would still be saying Tigers for the spoon, but and again, fair, they're not really producing much either. But the Knights, look, they lost Kalen Ponga. They're out. I saw a stat the other day. They were out multi-million-dollars worth of players, like $3.5-4 million worth of players, or some ridiculous stat like that, just because of the amount of injuries that they have. And Kalen Ponga was meant to be going into the halves and being, the experience for them, being a playmaker for them, and he was injured in week 2, or last week. Week 2.
He's been injured both weeks. He's gone out for concussion.
Yeah, so for them to invest so much money into a player that they know is injury prone, is unproven, especially in the halves.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, he is a fullback. He will always be a fullback. To stick him in the halves, and even the games he did play, he didn't show much promise. They've got Tyson Gamble as a backup. It's a solid backup, I guess. But between Ponga and Jackson Hastings, that is not the halves combination to lead that team to the playoffs. It just isn't. They've got a decent forward pack, again, riddled with injuries now. And yeah, I don't see them going very far. This week they're versing, I haven't actually had a look.
The Knights, they're facing
the Raiders.
I mean, that's a winnable game, but
it is a winnable game, and it's a home game as well. So I think that'll be a genuine test to see how they could do against a half-decent side. So far, Dolphins, it's hard to say how good they're going to be. And then last week, who did I say they versed last week? The Tigers. They beat them by 2 points. They beat arguably the worst team in the competition by 2 points. It's they need to prove that they aren't bottom tier material. Last year, a lot of people had them going top 8. They didn't. People had them potentially finishing top 8 again this year. I don't see that. I think when I did my team prediction, I had them at like 14th or 13th or something. I don't see them getting many wins. So, yeah. That's all I got to say on that. They're pathetic.
Well, speaking of Reese Walsh, we were just talking about, let's move on to the Brisbane game. And I want to introduce this one because I watched the replay of this one, and I was shocked at the Dragons taking it to Brisbane early on. I was like, man, the Dragons are really coming out hot here. And then the second half happened. And Regal, you were at that game, right? Mm-hmm. You said your workout. You take us to that one? Yeah. So explain what happened. I mean, they beat them by, as you can see, 40-18, which is just an absurd number to put up for the Broncos, especially all coming in the second half pretty much. I mean, if they were on fire like that, it could have been like a 58-18 game or less.
I want to say they scored 4 tries in the matter
in 7
of
minutes, I think.
10 minutes. 8 minutes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Last week when I was on the podcast, you guys asked me what I thought who I thought was going to win that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said handedly the Broncos. When it was obviously like you said, I was at that game at halftime. I believe it went to the half 18 all.
It was,
or maybe not.
It was 16-4.
16-4.
Yeah.
At half? No, it was 8-16. Halftime.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
which is actually less than I thought.
Because the Dragons, the Dragons put up the 18 when they went for 2 when they were down 18-16.
Yep. And the Dragons didn't score a try in the second half at all.
Right.
So when it was halftime, I was sitting there going like, this, like, the Broncos can lose this game. Obviously, like they're down 8 points. Or how many points was that?
You said 8.
8 points. Yeah. So it's not a hard margin to come back from. Like that's 2 tries or a try and a converted try and a penalty goal.
Mm-hmm.
But the second half happened, and we were at the side of the stadium that the Broncos were attacking in the second half. So all 4 of those tries that happened in those 8 minutes happened right in front of us, and it was electrifying. Like the fans were pretty stagnant. Obviously, the first half they didn't have much to cheer for, and then that second half, those last 10 minutes, Broncos gave us a hell of a show. And I think that was more of what we expected to see throughout the whole game. It took them a while to find where they wanted to go. And I have to say, man of the match for that game, Payne Haas. He came back on the field, and that was a game changer for them. He came back on the field. He produced the first try for, I think it was for Reese Walsh. Like Cobo scored that try for Reese Walsh was pretty much entirely set up by Payne Haas. Carrigan through the middle, Reese Walsh to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And it was he completely changed the look of that side. And I believe Broncos already had the lead at that point, or it was a tie. Maybe that was where the tie game happened.
It was a tie. It was a tie because I remember because I was watching the game. Obviously TV like that way.
Yeah,
I remember the reporter was like, the commentators kept going, "Oh, this game's gonna go to golden point. There's only blah blah minutes left." And then Payne Haas came back in the game, and they went from being golden point to we'll see you later, there, Dragons.
Absolutely blew them out of the water.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying with Melbourne, with those other sides, like having that forward pack that can be such a game changer, or specifically one player, like having that playmaker through the middle that can just help assist a line break, assist something to set the team up for a try, is game changing. You can see it. 4 tries, 8 minutes. And there's a photo going around. Actually, there's a couple photos going around of that game, but one in particular, I believe it was the last try that was scored. And there's a picture of Jack Bird, who plays for the Dragons, he had this face of a very strange mixture of anger and just sadness and defeat, because there should be no professional team in the NRL that can leak that many tries in that short amount of time. Throughout a game, sure, 4 tries in a game, perfectly reasonable. Assuming you're putting up the same points, that's fair. 4 tries in 8 minutes.
And there's a couple of them that were just breakaways that like they just went, where's the defense?
I think one of those 4 tries was scored on the wing. And I believe the other 3 were scored between the edges and the middle. Which I like, that's whatever. The line breaks happen everywhere on the field. But yeah, Dragons are again a team that nobody really expects to go that far. But that was
it was sad to see.
Yeah, they should be kicking themselves.
It's like they gave up as soon as they went down by like a couple tries, or like at least one try. As soon as they went down a try and they realized they couldn't score a try, it's like they just instantly shut down. And as soon as they shut down, it was just Reece Walsh is gone. Mam is gone.
Yeah, that combination, you said it there. That combination between those two has been the game changer for that team.
I feel like Mam and Walsh wasn't as big of a thing in this game, whereas I feel it was more Walsh and Reynolds this time. But again, if you're having Walsh connect with at least one of the halves, good things happen, it seems.
And that's what a good ball running fullback should be doing. They should be working with the halves and usually setting up those tries. That's where somebody like Pappenhausen, like Tedesco is he's not somebody who likes to charge the line as much. Like you'll see someone like Turbo, he gets the ball, he'll run it himself. Tedesco likes to get the ball and cut out pass or pass to his center. And he's the one that he sees the defense, and he's really quick at being able to decide who that ball is going to. And that's why the Roosters can score so many tries on their wings. Like, you look at their history, so many tries are scored between their centers and their wings. Like Daniel Tupou, Joseph Suaalii. They are so incredibly dominant, and it's because Tedesco is so incredibly good. It's the one thing I'll give him credit for. He's very good at working with his halves and being able to read that defense and see where the leaks are going to be. And that's something that Reece Walsh is proving he's able to do. He's able to, regardless of the veteran with, I was going to say Ryan Reynolds, with Adam Reynolds, or the younger second year guy with Azura Mem, he's able to read that defense, see what's going to work, and just fit in wherever he's going to fit in. With that said, again, I was at the game, and there were a couple times, even in that second half, where they were incredibly dominant. There would be times where you've got Corey Pakes at dummy half, ready to play the ball. Reece Walsh is calling for the ball. There was one time, I think it was like a 5-on-3. Reece Walsh out the left-hand side. They would have scored a try. It would have been a guaranteed try. There was no way the Dragons would have saved it. Corey Pakes goes out the right to Adam Reynolds. They still score a try. They have no business being as good as they are.
Yeah. I mean, as of right now, Brisbane's my early favorite. Honestly.
That's fair. And that's totally fair.
Yeah, they're looking really good.
Yeah. As long as injuries don't hit them, Brisbane is a very dangerous team right now.
Yeah.
Which Adam Reynolds is famous for being injured.
Yeah, which is why I'm worried with Manly, to be honest, with Turbo, with his injury past. Right now, I'm like, Manly's on a roll, but Turbo goes down. Does Manly continue to stay hot, or do they crumble like they did last year?
That's a fair thought to have. I've said it a couple times. Manly in the second half of last season was terrible, and it was because they didn't have Turbo. They had conflicts in their team with Pride Round, and it looks like they're patching things up. But yeah, it is entirely dependent on Turbo staying healthy. The team's success, it's integral for not only their attack, but he is such a good defender that he needs to stay healthy. It's the reality.
Same thing I feel with Reynolds right now. I feel like Reynolds needs to stay healthy for that Broncos team to stay dominant. I mean, they lose Reynolds. You're gonna have to move Walsh to the other half, and then you'd have to move Cabo to fullback. And from what we've seen so far, Cabo still looks he's learning fullback. He doesn't fully know what he's doing yet.
For a player that likes to, there was a lot of controversy preseason with about comments that he had about his coach Kevin Walters. He seems to have quite a chip on his shoulder, which, based on what we've seen through the preseason and through the early rounds of the season, he does not deserve. He's an okay winger at best.
Yeah.
He's a high flyer.
Mhm.
He's not great at defense. And in terms of just being a general playmaker, he's mid.
Yeah.
So for him to be so up himself, and like he specifically said he's been wanting to play fullback. He wants to go to a team where he can play fullback. I don't see that being a reality at the moment. He just doesn't have the maturity to be such an integral part of a team like a fullback, where you're a playmaker. From the second you receive that ball off a kickoff, off a like a returning kick from the other team.
Mhm.
Like from that second, the fullback is planning, running up the middle, trying to get as many meters as you can, and then figuring out where we're attacking from, left or right, up the middle, whatever it might be. The fullback's job is so crucial there, and he just doesn't have what it takes, in my opinion, to be successful there. So if Reynolds gets injured, they have to put Walsh into the halves. I don't know if that's what they'll do. But if that's the case, Cobo would go to fullback, or maybe Corey Oates, but Cobo is probably more likely, and that team will not be.
I think that team would halt a lot of their success.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, moving on from that game, we had the Bulldogs win 26-22 over the West Tigers.
Yep.
This game seemed a lot closer than what it should have been. And for a lot of people who think right now, 26-22 was a great game. No, the Bulldogs had this game won from the very first half. This game was a blowout and only became close like the final, what was it? The final 4 minutes of the game, it finally came close.
The Tigers scored 3 tries in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And the Bulldogs, they're a team that everybody's expecting to be a lot better. I'm expecting them to be a lot better than they are. And there's really not much to say about this game. I think they got a bit cocky in the late end of the last quarter of the game. They leaked a lot of points because they sort of slowed down on defense. They thought they'd already won the game. And then, Tigers came back, made it a 4-point game. I think the Bulldogs owe that win to that combination of Alamudi and
100%.
Arakar on the wing. Without
100%.
those two, without those two, they lose to the Tigers.
Mm.
It wasn't a particularly good game to watch. It was mid. It was fine. But yeah, look, I think everybody kind of saw that game as a bit of a coin flip. The Bulldogs should win it, and I guess they did. But it's against the Tigers. It's not an impressive win. The Tigers almost came back against them. They really need to work on their defense.
The Bulldogs have done something this season that have actually it's annoyed me a little bit, and I've noticed this. They show their glimpses of greatness, where they'll put up their points, but then they hit like the brakes because they're like, "All right, we're winning by so much. We just chill out."
Yeah,
and then the games get close because of this.
I think the Bulldogs' biggest problem is they've got Hayes Perham at fullback, who is not great. He's not, and I know they've signed Stevie Crichton for next year to play fullback, which he should be good in that position. He hasn't played a whole lot of it in first grade. I think he played a bit of it throughout his junior years, but he's been a center. He's been a center for his entire time at Penrith, with the occasional stint at fullback when Dylan Edwards has been out. So between Hayes Perham and just how little Matt Burton is doing in that team at the moment, it's killing them. They've got the experience in those edges, like Hickow. He is not doing anywhere near as much work as he should be. You saw him at Penrith the last couple of years. He's a playmaker. He charges that line and he will not stop until he gets near that try line. He's a beast. He's not doing that anymore. It's like he's lost his mojo in essence. Burton is slowed down. He's not performing where he should be. Kyle Flanagan's not experienced. He also just doesn't really have the talent to compete with these other halfbacks that he's going up against. Hayes Perham, inexperienced, and just not a playmaker. That's what's letting that team down. And I think a lot of it falls on Burton's shoulders. If he can find a way to get his players like Kickout to be playing at their top game, it doesn't really matter who's a fullback at that point, because in theory they should be so dominant through the middle that if Hayes Perham's just there as a catch and pass guy, anybody can do that. I could go out and do that. If they can get that forward pack to a point where Burton can control the field, control that left side of the field, and Flanagan he needs some work too, but can control that right hand side of the field. If they can just control the ball through the middle, they should be able to win every single game. They've got that good of a forward pack that they've got the keys there. They're just not producing.
I agree. And again, I feel like Kickout is one of those players this season that he hasn't played up to his Penrith days yet, in my opinion.
Yep. And that's fair. He hasn't showed anywhere near the promise that he had.
Like the amount of times he broke tackles and had line breaks that would lead to some kind of try thing or a big gain that he did with Penrith. I'm seeing him just get hit and he's down.
Yep. And he's got
like, what's happening.
He has the fastest winger in the game on his left.
Yep.
All he needs to do is be able to get two people in the tackle on him. If he can offload to Adokar, they're going to continuously score tries.
Oh yeah, especially look, Kickout has the young rookie Alamati and Adokar on that side, which to me, that's the best side of the Bulldogs as of right now, in my opinion. I mean, I'm just seeing the thing right now that literally Bulldogs winger Josh Adokar said that Paul could be one of the world's best centers. And that's just coming from Adokar himself saying that. Like, Alamati has the opportunity to do that. I think Kickout needs to step up on that side as well. And I think that Bulldogs team makes the 8. If Kickout doesn't step up and the rest of the Bulldogs, like Burton, Flanagan, don't step up, they miss the 8.
Yeah.
I mean, it all depends on the veteran players of that Bulldogs team to step up and make plays.
Yeah, I agree. And next week they've got the Warriors, which
again
is not a challenge for them. Yeah. Well, like it's a coin toss, but in theory they should.
Yeah. On paper they should dominate. Yeah.
So that's not really. I feel like that's not going to be a good test to see where they are at. The week after they've got Cowboys. That is going to be the week where we can see how the Bulldogs are going to go for the rest of the season. If they can pull that win out, I think they have a chance, as long as by that point, that it's clear that they're fixing their problems. They can make a run for the playoffs. If they lose the next 2 weeks, I'm going to go ahead and say they're not going to make it.
Yeah, I can agree with that, honestly.
It seems so strange to call that so early in the season, but
there's just certain teams you can tell.
Exactly right. And the Tigers are close to being in that same position for me as well. Like, they've got a huge game. What week is that? That's round 5. Let's go back to round 4. Actually, they've got 2 huge games back to back. They've Melbourne.
This week is huge for them.
Melbourne this week, and then they've got Brisbane the week after at home as well, at Suncorp Stadium. So they're 2 games that, on paper, again, they should be dominated. They should be losing 40-6, both of those games. But with players like Coruscant, they've got there. I don't know if they're going to have Papli'i back. I don't think so, at least not for this week. I'm not sure. I think he's out with an injury.
I don't.
They've got Bateman, who debuted last week from Super League.
Probably he's back this week for them, according to the team list.
This week. So in theory, their team is going to be at full strength. So this week is a huge test for them. If they can, please don't beat Melbourne. But if they can, it's going to be it'll depending on how dominant it is and how well they play, it will go to see how far they can make the season, if they can make the 8. Losing the next 2 weeks, I don't see it.
Hmm.
I
Oh,
just
the
don't see it.
Tigers are making some changes though going into next week apparently.
Is that so?
So Adam Dewey is going from 5/8 to fullback,
Did see that. Yep.
and Brandon Wakeham is taking the number 6 jersey instead, and Staines is going to the wing.
Which is interesting because, and they say Staines is going to the wing. Staines isn't that fullback anyway. It's Dane Laurie, but they've got Dane Laurie on the interchange.
Yeah,
So they're clearly trying to figure it out. They clearly can see that it's not working. Whatever they're doing is not working. Putting Dewey at fullback, Matt
interesting.
Burton. Matt Burton's try that he scored last week was entirely because Dewey was at fullback.
And didn't know what the hell he was doing.
I read up about it. He has played some fullback in his time. He's clearly rusty back there. So I think it's going to be an interesting game to watch. Realizing
I mean,
that
yeah.
Dill's going to be back there, yeah, and I guess it's going to be good. I think
you might
Dewey
see
being
your winger score finally.
maybe. I think Dewey being in the halves is so crucial for the Tigers because that brings that experience in for them.
Mhm.
Like I've said it, Dewey is a phenomenal half, and in
He
any
is.
other system, he would do so much better.
Oh,
I have said
100%.
I would love him at Melbourne. I would take, and I know a lot of people would say that I'm an idiot. I would take Adam Dewey over Cameron Munster.
I'm one of those people who would call you an idiot on that one.
I understand that. The only thing that Munster has over Dewey, in my opinion, is the smarts. Cameron Munster is brilliant at reading defenses and being able to produce plays.
I'd take Dewey over Munster or over Walker.
Ilias or Walker, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Just because Walker is just old at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. But to stick him at fullback and then bring in Brandon Wakeham and Luke Brooks. Luke Brooks is famously unproven at half. He's
I've never even
just
heard of
not
Wakeham.
very talented. And Wakeham, he's not a rookie. I believe he's from Super League. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't heard a whole lot on him. It's insane how much he looks like Benji Marshall, actually. Actually, he was born in 1999, so he's only 24 years old. So the problem is, they're going up against Melbourne, and they don't have the experience in the halves. So I imagine Dewey's going to be playing a very similar role to what Joey Manu was playing at the Roosters last year, where he's going to be, admittedly, Manu was in the centers, but he had that roaming role where he was able to play a bit of half as well and sort of work with the halves, and it was essentially just a third half, which is kind of it worked for them. Like he was, especially like you look at his fantasy points through that time, and even his tries, the try assists that he was setting up, he was crucial to the Roosters with their final push. If Dewey can get a similar role like that at fullback, which is more of a role for a fullback to do, to be sort of working with the halves, like I said, with Reece Walsh and his two halves, if Dewey can be there but be the experienced one for them, maybe it'll work.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to know until we see it. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that change, realistically.
I have a feeling it's going to change mid-game, and you'll see Dewey go back to half, and I think Laurie will go to fullback.
I think the problem with the Tigers team is that you look at it, and on paper, it's a really good team. But the problem is that they're so independently talented that when it comes to working as a team, they don't seem to be able to gel properly.
Like even with the additions of Papali'i and Coruscant, it's just
Coruscant, yep.
It's just again, you look at that and you go, those are two huge signings. Yet
looking at that forward pack though, you've got Coruscant, David Klemmer, Isaiah Papali'i, John Bateman. That is 4 of your starting front rowers. Well, front rowers and hooker. Actually, Bateman and Papali'i are second row. So Klemmer in the front row, Papali'i and Bateman on the edges, and then Coruscant at hooker. 4 of your starters in that forward pack are new to the team.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
So
you're not going to find success immediately.
No, and that's fair. Like if it takes them until Magic Round to find what works for them, that's fine. They can still make the playoffs, assuming they get 4 wins out of
Yeah,
out
exactly.
of the
They
10
still have to
rounds.
win a couple before that.
They have to get some wins. That's
Hmm.
fair. But if by Magic Round they've figured out what works and they end up being, it's hard to see it, but someone like the next Penrith Panthers, admittedly a much older version, but if they can figure out how to gel as a team and how to be that kind of an offense, yeah, sure. Like I can see the team going far, but I've only really just looked at it now that you pointed it out. That 4 of their starting 6 forward players are brand new to that team.
Yeah, I never noticed that before or knew that before myself. So that's
Yeah.
that's
And even looking at their bench, their interchange 14 is Dane Laurie, who's usually their fullback. How are they going to put him into the game? Are they going to put him in the fullback?
like I said.
What-
I have a feeling that by the end of the game, you're gonna see Dewey back to the halves, and Laurie will be in fullback.
They could do that. They could do that, and then put
Unless it
Blakey
works. Unless
into
Dewey comes out and looks like Reese Walsh and has a performance of a lifetime as fullback.
Mm.
But I don't see that. I see it being changed mid game.
I'll just say we'll leave it at it's going to be an interesting game if Tigers can find a way to work together properly.
Yeah.
That's realistically what it is. If they can gel, that'll be a good game to watch. Otherwise, in theory, Melbourne should roll them. That's moral of the story, really.
100%. All right. And getting to the last game of the week, we had the Raiders pull the upset and beat the Sharks 24-20. Now, this game was almost a game where the Raiders became their famous faders. Because they started choking very fast at the end there. But the Sharks just looked lost again. Again, no Nico Hines, which I mean they're getting him back this week.
I
That's
was gonna
huge
say that
news.
changes this week at least, so that's something.
Because I mean, it looks like they've at times they look like they're lost. They don't
Mhm.
know what's happening. And I feel
Yeah,
like with Nico Hines coming back, they get some of that leadership to possibly win these games they should be winning, in my opinion.
yeah. I think this week's gonna be a tough week for them still. They've got Hines back, but they have the disadvantage of Hines not playing since I don't think he played for Australia. I don't think he played in the World Cup, so potentially since last
Damn.
year during the NRL season.
That's yeah.
So they have Braden Trindle on the bench. Whether or not they're going to have those two sort of work in and out between each other, I'm not sure. But they have the disadvantage of Nico Hines. Admittedly, him being back is huge for them, but he's not warmed up. He's not. There's new rules in the NRL that he's got to get used to. And he's come back from a calf injury. Calf injuries are very hard, especially for a halfback to come back from and work well in. So it's lucky that they're versing the Dragons.
I was gonna say
Because
that's the one upside is the fact that they're facing the Dragons.
yeah, because I think the Sharks can beat the Dragons without Nico Hines. So for him to be there, regardless of how rusty he is, they should still get that win, and it'll be a good warm up for him to get back.
A good little practice to get his blood pumping, get that
Exactly,
calf a feel for the game again.
But yeah, and that's the last game of the week too. So we got to wait all weekend before we can see how that goes. But it's going to be good to see him back. I personally, for my fantasy team, kind of hope that Trindle ends up kind of taking back that spot. But
I
that
kind of
aside,
want Trindle to take the 5/8 spot, to be honest.
I agree. I think Trindle is a huge wasted talent for them to keep on the bench. If they even keep him on the bench, he's listed at 17, so he's right at the end of the bench.
Wow.
Which kind of
Bad
scares me because
decision.
it means that he's not their first choice, and it's probably because look at their bench. McInnes, Hunt, Kafusi. So they've got 3 forwards ahead of him. So I guess that makes sense. I don't know how they're gonna incorporate him into the game. Whether they're gonna sort of maybe they are gonna try him at 5'8", see Maybe
Maybe.
Moylan splits minutes with him.
Maybe they'll give Hines a rest.
Yeah, something like that. First game back, maybe just Hines will be coming off his injury. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how they do.
I haven't seen anything special from Moylan. That's my only reasoning of why I feel like Trindle should be there.
The
I
only
feel
thing
like
that Moylan is very good at is setting up tries, setting up line breaks, and which is crucial for a 5'8" to do. But I don't know. I feel like he's
Trindle
got
could
a
do the
different
same
rod.
thing.
I agree, and I think he could do it better.
And I feel like if you have Hines and Trindle, I feel like the Sharks become a very dangerous team very fast.
Yeah, it's just a matter of whether or not Trindle can go into that side of the field, because obviously he's used to playing the right-hand side of the field, I think it is. I think that's Hines' side. So he would have to learn to play left instead of right, which can be a lot like really hard for some halves to figure out how to do. So if he was successful in doing that, I would say that Trindle would be a much better start than Moylan.
100%.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they incorporate Trindle this week. He deserves to be a starter. He's a very very talented player. So it's something to keep an eye out for this week for sure.
Fantastic.
And as for that last game, the Raiders Sharks game, there's really not much to talk about.
There really isn't.
The Raiders, yeah, like you said, they had an early lead, they almost lost it. But that's just the Raiders for you. They've done that.
So
for
that was
years now.
That's basically the only thing that really happened in the game. It was 24 to, I want to say it was like 24 to something. And yeah, the Sharks had their big comeback, and then just errors didn't let them finish it.
Yep. I think even without Hines, the Sharks still should have won that game. But they didn't. It is what it is. It wasn't an impressive game. It wasn't really a crucial game for either team either. It's kind of a coin flip. So yeah, there's really not much to talk about in that game.
Again, I gotta say the Sharks just gotta be happy that they got one win while Nico was gone. That was their main goal, was to try to get as many wins as they could with Nico not there. They got one. That's good enough. If they would have started off 0-3, you'd be like, "Oh, congratulations, Nico, you're back. Now we gotta go to work and really work hard." But getting that one win is like, all right, well, listen, now we can slowly work them into the Dragons game. It's a game that you're gonna win your second game.
It was against the Eels too, which is like, I know obviously they're on 3, but that is still an impressive win. Whether or not it was an impressive loss or impressive win, I guess, is the different question. But yeah, like Bunnies is a very difficult game for them, even at their strongest. And like I said, they should have beat the Raiders, but they've got injuries. It is what it is. They didn't. Yeah. Go next.
The Eels are one of the teams that I feel like, if they don't get their stuff together soon, they have to hit the panic button. Yeah, I think that's everything NRL wise.
Yeah. Sorry, that was so long.
Hey, that
get me talking, and yeah, that's gonna happen.
I thought that might have happened when we brought you on for the match analysis, but hey, you know what? Having two guys who know rugby is a lot better than just having one guy who knows rugby. So I'll take it any day of the week. Maybe next week I'll go through the matches quick and say, here's the results, and now you guys talk about them.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, so other than that, I mean, yeah, that's the rugby portion of it. Any questions quick in the chat at all? Is there any questions?
I just think this week's gonna be a really big week.
Yeah,
really especially that first game, Parramatta Panthers. Oof.
So many good games.
It's rough.
I mean, I feel like these are must-win games for Storm and Bunnies, to be honest, this week.
And Parramatta.
Yeah, must win for Parramatta, for sure.
Those three teams are in must-wins. Actually, you know what? It's a must-win for the Cowboys as well, to be honest. The Cowboys lose to the Titans. The Cowboys are starting hitting that little panic button going, what happened? Yeah. We started off the way we ended last season, but now all of a sudden something happened and we have nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, excellent stuff. Regal, always appreciate you coming on, being our NRL correspondent. Appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. And with that said, we'll get right into the Esports Report. To where there's not too much going on, honestly. I mean, I honestly thought that there would be a lot more Call of Duty roster mania stuff going on, but there just isn't. So that's unfortunate. But there are things that are going on. There's at least one thing, one roster move that has happened toward the London Royal Ravens, like one of the worst teams in the entire league, are getting rid of Paul X. And now Zero as well, but Zero was already their sub, so he wasn't really doing much. But yeah, so they're getting rid of Paul X, and my guess is that they're bringing on Yuli, who was a sub of theirs as well. They're bringing him on, so yeah, so that's really all that's going to happen with them. Nothing really much going on. I mean, New York rumored to maybe make a change, but I honestly don't see who they could get to increase their, increase their camp. I'm not entirely sure. But some interesting news about bounty matches being back for this upcoming major and Major 5. Major 4 and 5 are going to have bounty matches brought back into the league. So last season, they had these bounty matches in which in week 2 of the qualifiers for Major 4 and Major 5, every team had one bounty match for the stage, I believe. Or maybe not for the stage, but just in total. Or they had 2 total, sorry. And if you win that matchup, not only do you just get points and goes towards the major, you also get an additional $10,000 to your organization. So that's cool. That's nice. I mean, they're taking $120,000 and giving it away to the orgs, which is nice, but at the same time, it gets criticized that you could put that in somewhere else and make something else nicer about your broadcast, about anything, about your staff, about you name it. It's been said. So for Major 4, it'll be week 2 of the qualifiers. We're going to have London, Boston, Seattle, Florida, Minnesota, New York, Texas, New York, Toronto, Atlanta, and then LAG, LV. And now I said that every team has 2 over the course of the rest of the year. New York actually has 3. And funnily enough, LAT only has 1. So they kind of messed it up there, scheduling-wise. Not exactly sure. LAT doesn't have a single bounty match in this upcoming Major 4. So I guess the scheduling just didn't work for them, but they're getting screwed out of an additional $10,000, whereas New York is getting blessed with the chance of another $10,000. So when it's all said and done, New York could have the opportunity to get $30,000 for their org, and LAT can only get $10,000 for their org. So, yeah, that's just kind of a loss for the Call of Duty League as a whole, just not scheduling things right. But it's interesting. It's kind of fun to bring back those bounty matches. It adds a little bit more on the line because, I mean, it all depends on what the organization will do with that additional $10,000. But most of the orgs split it up and give it to the players. So it's a little bit more of an incentive for the players to get a little bit more money. And so, yeah, it's nice. That's nice. Major 4 qualifiers begin after this weekend. So next weekend is when they start up again. So next week, we're going to be bringing you maybe Roster Mania. I mean, we thought Roster Mania was going to happen this week because, they had 2 weeks in between the majors this time. So thought there was going to be Roster Mania like crazy, but there's just not. And that's just the way it is. But moving on to Halo news. I mean, we talked about Rocket League last week, but honestly, not much has changed. They still have their winter major going on in April, the beginning of April. And I'm not really sure anything else going on. But in Halo news, not much to find either. But I found that they have these 2K tournaments that have been going on. Tournaments for like $2,000, and they're like an open series. And so I was looking at this thinking like, oh, that's cool. Like, I wonder what teams are in here. There's obviously just like challenger type players, type teams that join and compete and try to get their recognition out there. But there's big orgs too, like FaZe Clan, Complexity. I'm pretty sure I saw Sentinels were in here. Cloud9 was in here. Funnily enough, Optic Gaming isn't in here. Yeah, they're Space Station. Sentinels. Yeah, so there's a lot. There's a couple of big orgs that are in here, but no Optic. So I guess it's just a thing that you can do for fun. It's just an open bracket thing going on. So, yeah, not really sure about the point of it other than just getting people's recognition and names out there. But I wonder if it wrapped up yet. It has not wrapped up yet. The final of these come on the 23rd. So in 2 days is when these things will complete for this 2K. FaZe Clan Native White.
Fantastic.
No idea who Native White is, but they knocked out Cloud9, so maybe I should know who Native White is.
Wow.
And then Space Station and G1, which I don't know G1. I don't recognize any names down here in this lower bracket area, so who knows? Not really that knowledgeable of the Halo teams. I'll be the first to admit it. Outside of the FaZe Clans and the Space Stations and Cloud, those big orgs that they expand much of the the esports space. Yeah, so that's really all that I've got. I've got something pulled up here for the Overwatch League. Highlander, do you want to take this away? The Pro-Am, the West Pro-Am, only 2 days. 2 days until the first ever Overwatch League Pro-Am.
So we have the off season ending, thankfully, with the Overwatch League kicking off on the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
Over the last 2 weeks or last couple of weeks, more than 200 teams across North America and Europe/Middle East region competed for only 7 spots. Which congratulations to Saints, Trick Room, Redbird Esports, Timeless, and Wisp from North America, and Twisted Minds and Team Peps from the EMEA on qualifying. So they're entering into the league this year.
Nice.
Which, the Pro-Am is in 2 days. So we get to have a little bit of action that goes on there.
Yeah.
The official Overwatch League regular season, though, starts April 27th.
Oh, April 27th. So we got a little over a month.
We're going to finally, though, get some kind of Overwatch action coming in 2 days, thankfully.
Nice. Love that. Well, I'm just checking my notes here, and I did miss a bit from the Call of Duty space. Adam Apicella, which people probably don't know who that is. I don't really know. I didn't really know who that was until a couple of years ago.
Sounds familiar.
Yep. He's a big part of the Esports Engine, which is the organization that runs the Call of Duty broadcast and everything like that. He's stepping away from the Esports Engine.
Oh,
so kind of a blow for Call of Duty. Not really sure what his next steps are. I mean, obviously he's a big part of Esports Engine. Not exactly sure what his title was. If he was some sort of COO or CEO, maybe not CEO, but he was a big deal in the Esports Engine. He was a part of MLG back in the day. A major part of MLG.
I do know where he is.
A major part. So he kind of has really seen Call of Duty grow and flourish over the years, and he's kind of helped it along with good production and things like that. So losing him, possibly losing him, big blow for Call of Duty, but hopefully he can move on to a different part of his life, aspect of his life where he still has some sort of say over the Call of Duty League, maybe. But yeah, so that's really all that I missed. A little update on the World Baseball Classic. 3-1 Japan, top of the 7th. So neither of us were right in that high scoring game that we were talking about. But
USA, though, I think is about to either tie it or take the lead on this.
Are they about to?
There's
2
0
men
outs.
on,
There's a
0
guy,
outs.
2 men on, and I'm pretty sure right now we're getting Trout. Yeah, Mike
Trout's
on
up. Oh, baby.
With 2 men on base. This could be the moment.
This could be. Anyway, you were going to say something before I said that?
Oh, maybe? Just that whole him leaving is just it's a scary sign for COD in a way.
Yeah.
Because for a guy who's been part of it for so long, to finally step away from it makes you wonder if he's just worried of where COD is heading.
Maybe.
I mean, again, I feel like the way they did the franchising still was a little weird. Like the whole buy-in thing, everything's just kind of. Yeah, I think they need to change a lot of things to make the franchising better if they want COD to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I give it a couple more years and
It'll really be
COD will, it'll be over.
Depending on the games that come out too, that's also a big factor. I mean, we're supposed to have another year of this Call of Duty, which isn't great.
Which they've already changed.
Well, it's just rumors. It's just rumors. It keeps flip-flopping back and forth, saying like, there's going to be a new game. No, there's not going to be a new game.
That Advanced Warfare 2 is coming out.
No, it's just a rumor. It's just a rumor.
Okay.
Nothing's really confirmed with that. Maybe I'll have more on that next week if anything comes out about that. Any latest rumor. I
kind of like the idea of having one COD for
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of nice. I'm like, wow, we won't just see one COD and then it's like, oh, this was useless. It was only for a year and then on to the next one.
True.
And then they're like, surprise, nope. We're thinking about doing this. I was like, why? Why would you go back on it?
Right. I mean, other games, Call of Duty is the only one that reintroduces itself every year. It's really the only one. I mean, CSGO, Rocket League, Halo.
Speaking of CSGO,
everything. Oh,
CSGO 2.0 is coming.
What?
Possibly this week.
What does that mean?
I don't know what exactly is going on with that.
CSGO 2.0.
I heard some big people talking about CSGO 2.0 is coming out.
2.0. Counter-Strike 2?
I don't really know. Counter-Strike 2 launch could be soon. Yeah. What? CSGO reveals brand new logo amid Source 2 update hype.
Oh.
So Counter-Strike is getting a huge thing.
I think that's gonna do it for our show tonight.
Good for.
So that has been that's gonna do it for this show tonight. Quick last update on the World Baseball Classic. Bottom of the 7th. USA didn't get any runs from that top of the 7th threat. Now there's one man on for Japan, one out. Bottom of the 7th. So there's just a little less than the last third of the game to play. And USA got to have some offense happen quick, or else it's bad. Bad news bears for us.
I think Japan's taking it.
They might. I mean, the offense needs to get their bats working. That's how I have us winning. So without that happening, it's not going to happen. But anyway, thank you all so much for listening and watching to this podcast. Thank you so much for you guys who are here. Once again, if you guys want to check out this podcast live, we go live every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on twitch.tv/OffTheCuffPod. Links will be in the description, of course. If you're watching us and you want to listen to us, make sure to head over to anchor.fm/OffTheCuffCast to find all of our audio sites. And if you are listening and want to watch, we have a YouTube where we post all of our videos and clips and, just major episodes video-wise. So check that out whenever you get a chance. And feel free to subscribe on your platform of choice. Follow us on your platform of choice. Follow us here on Twitch if you haven't done so already. And we will come back next week for more news on sports and esports. But until then, I'm JT. That has been Hylander. And we will see you guys next week.